Good morning and welcome to our time of being together, St Michael's Church Facebook group. Hello everybody, welcome to all of you living in Bishopscleeve, Woodmancote, our villages round here, or those of you who are watching from further away as well, friends of friends or whatever. Welcome to you all on this Sunday morning if you're watching live. Where are we? The 7th of March 2021. Where are the weeks and months going? This is amazing. And so spring is on the way. It's here, isn't it? It's fantastic. So there's a sense of hope about us as we look forward to gradually coming into a different sort of season in terms of this whole pandemic thing. It's been a year or so now since we've been doing this stuff online. And I'm so grateful for you being part of the journey with us and joining me as well on all these Sundays. So good morning to you. Lovely to see your comments coming up and saying hello to us. So welcome to all of you who are watching live today, and also welcome to you those that are watching later on in the day or another time of the week or whenever it might be. So great to see you all. Hello, hello, hello. And welcome to the last of 6 talks in this Lifting the Lid series. Our part of our kind of living well in body, mind and spirit theme for 2021, or for however long it goes. And what we want to be doing in these Sundays is lifting the lid on issues to do with mental health, simply by talking about them, and simply we as the church family talking about this stuff, saying this is good to talk about these things, to lift the lid a bit. And also as we've gone through our Bible stories week by week, to see where faith meets with issues of health, physical and mental health, and what God's got to do with it all. And actually what we've been discovering is that God is interested in the whole of our lives. So welcome to you today, whether you feel that you're a Christian or a follower of Jesus, whether you feel you're somebody who's just on the journey, tentatively having a look at issues of faith, whether you're someone who used to kind of feel you're a Christian maybe months or years ago, but for whatever reason, you know, you lost your way or something happened and you're just thinking about things again. Welcome to you as well. Welcome to you if you're really unsure about this whole faith thing and the whole God thing. Maybe you're really cynical, but you're here anyway. Welcome to you. And I hope and pray that there'll be something for each of us to take away from today, which will be able to make a difference in our lives in a really, really positive way. After this time, if you're watching live, after our time of sharing our story today, I'll be opening up the Zoom coffee and chat time, so you'll be welcome to join me on that, and the invitation will come up in the comments wherever they are on your screen. So welcome all of you, and I pray now that God, you bless us as we share this time together. Bless us if we're full of faith, bless us if we're full of doubt, if we're cynical. Bless us if we're feeling really well today. Bless us if we're not feeling so good at all. We just pray that we would know your loving presence with us today. So bless you if you're watching on your own. May you somehow feel this is company. And bless you if you're watching with a family and you're trying to manage kids running around the place, or animals or dogs or whatever's going on in your house. Thank you for being with us in these moments. Bless you if you're watching as a couple. Bless you if you're just kind of watching over someone's shoulder. You're doing something else, but you're just wanting to tune in a bit. Bless you. May God bless you too. So the story we're sharing today is the parable of the loving father and the 2 lost sons. And in this story, we're going to be seeing how God's unfailing love is not based on how we feel or what we've done, be those good things or not so good things. And my hope and my prayer is that as we share this good news story today, it will be helpful to you if you feel rotten about yourself today for whatever reason that is. Just because you feel life's been bad to you or circumstances, or maybe you've taken yourself to a place that's just not been great. So if you feel rotten about yourself, my hope and my prayer is this story will be good news to you. If you live with someone or spend time with someone who you know feels really down on themselves at the moment, then I pray this story will be good for you as well as you look to spend time with them. And if you're feeling, life's pretty chipper at the moment, in spite of the pandemic. You know, there's food on the table, there's walks to be had, your health has been great, and life's feeling pretty good, then I pray this story will be good news for you as you look to reach out to somebody whose life might not be so outwardly blessed like yours might be at the moment. So just before we get to this story, this parable, I want to say Jesus told 3 parables about lost things. And the last one we're going to share is about a lost person, 2 lost people actually. And the reason he told this story is because he was getting so much criticism for who he was hanging around with. And right at the beginning of Luke chapter 15, we see Jesus criticised because he's hanging out with tax collectors and sinners. These were kind of known words and kind of categories in which to put people in who weren't doing the right religious stuff, who weren't doing the right community things, who are wasting their lives. For tax collectors being greedy, and they were just hated because of the trade they were in for a whole load of reasons. And the sinners is a kind of catch-all phrase for all those that were kind of beyond the pale, weren't doing the right things, were living deliberately away from God. But Jesus loved to hang around with these people. So he tells these stories to those who are being critical and judgmental. Go Jesus. That's what I want to say as I hear his stories. So the third of these stories is the one that we're going to share now. And it may be familiar to you. And if it's really familiar to you, then my prayer is that you'll be able to hear something fresh in this story. That God would give you and me the humility, not to say, not this story again, but to say, God, show me something new, or remind me of something that I once loved about this story. So here we go. Jesus told them this story. A man had 2 sons. The younger son told his father, I want my share of the estate now before you die. So his father agreed to divide his wealth between his sons. A few days later, this younger son packed up all his belongings and moved to a distant land. And there he wasted all his money on wild living. About the time his money ran out, a great famine swept over the land. He began to starve. He persuaded a local farmer to hire him, and the man sent him into his field to feed the pigs. The young man became so hungry that even the pods he was feeding the pigs looked good to him, but no one would give him anything. When he finally came to his senses, he said to himself, at home the hired servants have food enough to spare, and here I am dying of hunger. I will go home to my father and say, Father, I've sinned against both heaven and you, and I am no longer worthy of being called your son. Please take me back as a hired servant. So he returned home to his father, and while he was still a long way off, his father saw him coming. Filled with love and compassion, he ran to his son, embraced him, kissed him. His son said to him, Father, I have sinned against both heaven and you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But his father said to the servants, quick, bring the finest robe in the house, put it on him, get a ring for his finger and sandals for his feet, and kill the calf we have been fattening. We must celebrate with a feast, for this son of mine was dead and now has returned to life. He was lost, but now he was found. So the party began. Okay, so this is episode 1 of this story. We're probably not going to get to episode 2 of this story, which we may do next week. So Jesus is telling this story to explain why he's hanging around with the people he's hanging around with. His father's got 2 sons. The younger one says to him, I want my share of your estate now before you die. I've sometimes said in the past over the years, try saying that to your father or mother while they're still alive. You might get an interesting look or some cute words. But actually over the years, it can sometimes be a tax savvy thing, maybe to begin to pass on some things to our kids before we die. But that's another story. Anyways, father agreed to divide the wealth up between the sons. And a few days later, the younger son packs up all his belongings and moves off to a distant land. What this son is effectively doing is really kind of breaking up the family unit, breaking up the family relationships, breaking up the family business and the estate. It would have had a massive effect on the running of the business. And maybe we have our own stories of when we were younger, of just kind of wanting to escape, wanting to branch out, wanting to go and live the life that we wanted to live. That is certainly my story. I know many of you would have heard that before. Couldn't wait to leave home aged 18, to get away from a very strict father, felt like loads of boundaries around me. Couldn't wait just to get out, go and be free, away from home, doing my own thing without all those rules and regulations. You will have your stories too of how you did that in one way or another, or maybe how you long to have done it. Or maybe you didn't do it as a young person, but maybe you did it much later because that was your opportunity. Somehow to be free from family, somehow to be free of commitments. And for some of us, and it was me as well, bit of time about being free away from God. I kind of call it my time of trial separation from God. The only thing is, in my trial separation, I crashed and burned really badly, whereas God was okay. But, you know, we hooked up again. That's part of my story, which echoes so much of this story. Maybe you in your family have got those experiences, though, where somebody did something, somebody broke away, somebody left, and there was a kind of cloud on the family, perhaps. And particularly around this family, this time in that culture, it would have been very much the possibility that it would have brought shame on the family because of what had happened. And that there might well have been a cloud over the family because this son had gone and what they'd done to the family. Maybe that's something of your experience. There's somebody that left home. Maybe there's somebody in your family that you haven't spoken to for months or years because of what you did or because of what they did. And maybe there's something about this story then that really echoes with your life's experience. A few days later then, we hear this younger son packs up all his belongings and moved to a distant land. And there he wasted all his money on wild living. Again, when we see the son going away with these bits of the estate, maybe it's money, cash, whatever it was, some precious things. Again, I could just remember that feeling. I'm free, I'm away. I've got a bit of money. Back in the days when students used to get grants and things like that. And, you know, maybe we can imagine, you know, we want to go and spend our money. And maybe that was your experience. You know, what would we spend it on? I don't know, alcohol, partying, you know, meeting somebody to have a great relationship with for a short time or a long time, whatever it might be. We just want to get out there and hang out and do our thing. So, you know, that's what this guy does. But he doesn't just measure himself, really. He wastes all of his wealth on this wild living. Oh boy, why did he have to go so far? Why couldn't he just taste a bit and then just kind of pull back? But he wasted it all. And maybe that's why the story needs to be like this. That Jesus is showing us in the parable that this guy just didn't go so far. You know, he blew the lot. You know, he wasted everything. And about that time we hear as the money ran out, a great famine swept over the land and he began to starve. So not only is his resources beginning to run out, but whatever's going on around him makes things even worse. You know, a famine came to the land. Some years ago, we might have thought, well, you know, it's an economic downturn that came to the land, or a recession came. That just when we really needed some help, whatever was going on in the world around us made things even worse. We might say even now, our story will look back and think a pandemic came to the land. So, you know, things got really bad for this guy. He begins to starve. I mean, what a turnaround from having the wealth that he had to now starving. And now things get even worse for him because he persuades a farmer to give him a job. I mean, this was a guy who had responsibilities in the family business at home, most likely, telling other people what to do, asking other people to work for him. But now he goes to somebody else. You know, how, you know, he has tumbled downwards in his story. And the guy gives him a job that the people listening to the parable, who were the religious people, the so-called good people, the ones who were good on judging others, you know, they would have been horrified at this young man's downfall. shaking their heads in disgust. But now when they hear that the only job he can get is feeding pigs, this is a deeply awful kind of trade for a good Jewish boy to get into. The idea of feeding pigs, the whole, you'd have been seen as being religiously unclean. It was just heaping shame upon shame. That's the only job he can get, feeding the pigs. And then he's so hungry, he wants to eat the pig food, but no one will give him any at all. Any semblance of who he once was and what is really important to him seems to have gone from him. In desperation, he turns to this humiliating, shameful options, and maybe we've been there too. Maybe not to this extent, but maybe we found ourselves thinking, how did we turn to that in our lives? How did we end up being addicted to that bit of behaviour or whatever it was? How did that bit of behaviour come into our lives? How could that happen to us, we might have thought? But nevertheless, we found ourselves there. So this guy's lost all his self-respect. And then we hear these words. And I think, for me, thinking about this talk for today, thinking about this story for the umpteenth time today, this is the aspect that's really has really struck me. And I wonder if it will for you too. For what we read is that this young man, he comes to his senses. He comes to his senses and he thinks, here am I starving to death. But even the servants, the workers, the employees back home in my father's business, even they, get regular food. He comes to his senses, what am I doing here? So as he thinks and processes that, he thinks, I'm going to go home. Wow. And I'm going to say, I'm sorry to my father, how I've sinned against God and I've sinned against him. Just have me back, even as a servant. That is massive. What a massive thing for this guy to think about doing. So, coming to our senses is a scary thing for all of us. Just realizing who we are and taking an honest look at ourselves. Most of us don't really want to do that. And yet, we do anything actually to sometimes just escape the reality of who we are. We distract ourselves to death rather than just look at ourselves and think, oh my word, that's my habit, that's who I am. It'd be a frightening prospect. But maybe, I'm sure over this last year of pandemic, we've mentioned this a few times over these weeks and months, we've learned things about ourselves, haven't we? We've had to take a look at ourselves. Maybe we've discovered that we really love nature, that we really love birds, and we've just loved the fresh air of being outside. Maybe we've discovered that actually we love not commuting to work. We just found ourselves less stressed. Or maybe we found ourselves thinking, actually, I miss the commute to work. I miss that kind of liminal space between one boundary and another place, between leaving one place and arriving at another place. We've missed that kind of corridor time, if you like, between one meeting and another meeting. And we've missed that perhaps. We like that time of just being with ourselves in the car or walking or cycling to work. Maybe we've learned that we're not always able to control all our circumstances. Maybe we've, watched ourselves losing something, some money, an opportunity, a loved one, some health. And, that's caused us to wake up to the fact that we can't control everything in our lives. Maybe we've woken up and discovered some of the things that we never thought was so important and so necessary. Time just to be rather than to do. Time with a loved one, with a child or a parent or a spouse or a partner. Just that different sort of time spent with them. A different sort of balance to work and leisure and self-care. Maybe we prayed like never before, even though we never thought we were a Christian or needed to pray, but we found ourselves being really, connecting to our spiritual side. Maybe we've just woken up to the idea we just can't do this life on our own, that we've needed help and we've reached out to help. Hopefully not many of us have reached total rock bottom like this younger son in the story, hungry with such a bad feeling about themselves. But if that were us thinking, wow, how have I got to this place? I wonder what would have taken you there. I can look back on my own life and think about the things that took me to that place, but I wonder what it would have been or what it is that's taken you to that place. As we've lifted the lid on our mental health across these weeks, we've seen again and again the positive way in which God cares for those who are desperate for a whole range of reasons, be it mental health issues, worry, anxiety, depression, bad life experiences, ill health that's not just mental but maybe physical. In this story, what's taken this person to this place is their self-determination. They're wanting to do life away from family, away from a loving father, trying to find fulfillment on one's own. There's no indication in this story that this guy has got mental health issues. But we'll see how God's unfading love is not based on anything we do or how we feel, regardless of whether it's us that's taken it there or something else that's taken us into those feelings. So this young man, he returns then to his father. And while he's still a long way off, we hear how the action has changed to the father, because the father is on tiptoe, looking out in the distance for his son. Filled with love and compassion, he runs to him when he sees him coming, embraces him and kisses him. I can just imagine maybe every now and again he goes to the edge of his estate, whatever it is, his farm or whatever, and just looks in the distance to see. Every now and again he might see a bit of dust being kicked up and he's just wondering, is that him? Is that him? Oh, it's just somebody else. But in this stage he looks into the distance. He sees a form coming towards him. And he thinks, he looks like his size. That looks like his gait, the way that he moves. He looks tight. It is him. It's got to be him. And he begins to run out to him. And what an amazing picture that is. The son is returning home. The father is running out to meet him. Maybe in this story, maybe already we're hearing the possibility that when we are down and out, when we're not in a good place and we feel rubbish and we feel we've messed up or life's been cruel to us, that maybe there can be a turning point that involves us coming to our senses, taking an honest look at ourselves. But here we hear the story, an invitation that is the yes of God's love. We might think we're unworthy. We are. We might feel we've messed up. Often we have. But God loves us beyond measure. And we see this in the story of the loving, running father. And just as a sort of slight aside, to be an older, senior gentleman in that culture meant that you carried yourself with dignity. The idea that he probably would have hitched up his robes and ran in public would have been something that was almost undignified and shameful. But don't we love it that this is what this father is like? And if this father represents what God is like, then I'm pretty pleased to hear that. Of course, it just also sounds so un-English as well. I was thinking about this and thinking about the running father. Well, when have I, as a father, done something towards my children, they would have thought, oh, Dad, don't, and I'm not going to mention any of those on here. Apart from the fact I do remember, watching back some of the videos I filmed of my children as they grew up from they were tiny, playing sport, right through to well into their teenage years. I'm not so sure we're allowed to do that stuff anymore, but I've got loads of films and I'm really happy. And sometimes on the videos I can hear myself shouting out their name. I remember one with Jake was young, running to get this try, and I was just shouting, "Go Jake, go!" And I've done the same with Chloe as well when she'd have been playing hockey and stuff. Maybe you've done that with your children as well, and your children say, "No, keep quiet." And sometimes I think, oh my word, it's a bit embarrassing when I listen and watch the films. But in a way, who cares? Who cares? Can you hear the Father calling out your name as he cheers you on as you come home? As you walk and your tired way, maybe your head bowed down, wondering what's going to happen, wondering what the reception's going to be like when you return. Or maybe when you come to God for the first time and you see there this Father moving towards you, shouting out your name, not caring who else is watching. This is our God. This Father is full of joy and delight. So as he gets in, he begins to embrace his son. The son's trying to get out. He's sorry, Father, I'm sorry. I've messed up my relationship with God in heaven and with you. You know, I'm just here. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. And the Father, you know, it's almost like he's muffling the words with his embrace of his son. And he's saying to the servants who have maybe kind of come out after him, hey, let's get him sorted out. Let's get my son his dignity back. Get a robe, the best robe to put on him. Get a ring to put on his finger. Get sandals for his feet because he's barefoot. Look at him. Let's give him dignity. Let's honour him. He's home. And then he calls for the barbecue to be got started because we're going to party, he says, because this son of mine was as good as dead. And look, he's home, alive. You know, he was lost, but now he's found. And the party begins. This is why Jesus was hanging out with the tax collectors and the sinners before these parables begin. Because Jesus loves us when we're on the margins like this. He loves us when we're lost, and he loves it when, you know, we're just showing some inclination to be with him. And that's what those sinners and tax collectors, and they're eating and drinking with Jesus. They were just happy to be with him, working out life and faith together. Jesus notices us when we begin to think seriously about life and faith and him. He notices us when we pray. He notices us when we turn towards him, whatever that looks like. The son had damaged so many aspects of his life. Broken family relationships. He was kind of religiously unclean there amongst the pigs. He'd been a financial disaster. He wasted all his money. He was morally bankrupt as well. He spent every penny on loose living. But he learns that nothing he's done makes him more or less loved. Even in this total mess, he is loved. In the arms of his Father, he discovers love and hope not based on the record of his own life, but he is based on the love of the Father. And in a few weeks' time, when we get to Good Friday, we'll see the best picture of all that shows what God's love for us is like. There's Jesus hanging on the cross with our name on his lips, mysteriously and wondrously carrying all the burden of everything that we messed up and got wrong in life. He carries it all for us instead of us. There, mysteriously and wondrously, he dies instead of us, for us, the death that should have been us, a death that would be a death far away from God. He takes that on for us so that in his resurrection we might discover new life with God as well, a fresh start, life transformed, embraced in the arms of a loving Father. There is an episode 2 to this story, but we might look at that next time because there's another son, the older son, who'd stayed at home, but we're going to leave that story for now. For now, I just want to end by praying for us. I pray for those who's coming to their senses and waking up to who you really are may feel really, really difficult. I pray for you if you're waking up to who you are, maybe just waking up to the fact that you're older than you'd like to be. And you're wondering about, this body, this health, and it's hard to face that. I pray for you if that's you. I pray for you if you're waking up and just discovering, that there is mental health issues for you. And it's sometimes mental ill health issues for you. And just coming to terms with that has been difficult. When I thought of, just as I was thinking and praying, I pray for you if, just waking up to the fact that you're deeply shy and for whatever reason find it difficult to connect with other people. I pray for you if you're waking up to the fact that right now you haven't got the body that you want. Could be a whole range of things, but if that's you, you know what that's about. I pray for you if you're waking up then thinking, I haven't got the mind or the brain that I'd like, I don't feel I'm clever enough, or I forget things. I pray for you, if that's you, just waking up to that. I pray that for you, as you wake up to who you are, and in the moment of that reality, you will be able to say to God, here I am, this is me. And I just reckon, dear God, that as we pray those words, something amazing will happen as we are just honestly turning towards you. And I pray, dear God, that in that moment, I pray to the Father, in that moment, you will know his presence and his power and his love filling your heart. And lastly, I pray for those of you who are not in a good place, but you know that's because of your own making, really. Maybe you're thinking about cheating on a partner, been going down that route, and you just know deep inside this isn't good, it's not right. Maybe you're waking up to the fact that your relationship with the internet is secret and unhealthy, and that's messing with you as well. Maybe I pray for you too that if you're waking up to the fact that your use of money isn't great, maybe you gamble, maybe you're squirreling some money away and it's messing with you and your family, although they might not know that yet. I pray that God would be with you as you wake up to that. And I pray for you if part of your waking up is just coming to your senses about the way that you're hurting somebody else. It might be physically, it might be emotionally, a whole kind of range of ways perhaps. And I pray that God will just be with you as you wake up to that. I pray that if you're coming to your senses and desire to find true joy rather than fleeting pleasure, and if you turn to God in whatever way that looks and works for you, that you're able to say something like, here I am, God, I'm sorry, I hear you love me anyway. Here I am, God, I'm sorry, I hear you love me anyway. God, I pray that if that's us, that we will know your presence and your power and your love filling our hearts right now to make all things new. Amen. So I just want to say, if you want to follow up on any of that I've talked about, on behalf of my church, I'm doing all these talks, but if anything that we're talking about here, you want to follow up on, then feel free to private message me on Facebook or to email me. I think my email address might be coming up. It might be that you just want to email me or private message me and you'd like to talk, and I can either chat with you on the phone or by text or something like that. It might be there's somebody else that I can put you in touch with, one or other, loving people in St Michael's, and pretty much I can guarantee you that will be confidential, that conversation. So thanks for being here today. If there's something about today's talk that you think somebody else will find helpful, please share it with them, send them the details, share the post with them, and may God bless us as we continue in our Lenten journey towards that amazing Good Friday, and then all the wonder and the joy of Easter Sunday. So God bless you all. Take care. Thanks for being here today.